cross then to the National Assembly here in Paris. We're going to talk to our reporter Shirli Sitbon, who is there for us. Shirley, France already has, doesn't it, robust laws against anti-Semitism and against racism. So what's the point of this new law?
Well, its promoters say the law is not efficient enough against new forms of anti-Semitism. I'll give you some examples. For example, the current law bans attacking Jews, insulting Jews because they're Jewish, like saying Jews out. Well, the promoters of this law say that the word Jew has been replaced with Zionists. Zionists out, for example, on the walls of French universities. And they say, well, this is currently legal, but it should be made illegal. Another example, they say that minimizing attacks of terrorism can generate terrorism, new violence anyway, here in France. Anti-Semitic violence sometimes. They also say that even calling for the annihilation of Israel, the destruction of Israel, today is legal and should be made illegal because they say that Israel is the only Jewish state, and so calling for its destruction is in a way a new form of anti-Semitism. Of course, it is legal today, and it's also legal to say that Palestine shouldn't have the right to exist. That's the current free speech here in France.
Shirley, criticism, though, against this law has mounted, hasn't it? I mean, many saying it would weaken free speech.
Absolutely. And to be really clear about this, I listened to one of the absolute experts in this is Judge Marc Trévidic, a former anti-terrorist judge, and he's the one who got suspects in old anti-Semitism terrorist attacks against Jews in the 1980s. He brought the cases forward, brought them to justice. And so he says, you can't say I'm anti-Semitic. I put everything forward to fight anti-Semitism. Well, he says this law is terrible. For example, in the current law, I'm reading this just to be precise, inciting to terrorism, well, the law says that it's illegal to provoke directly acts of terrorism. But the change would mean that provoking directly or implicitly to acts of terrorism should be illegal. Well, the judge says, well, how am I supposed to know what implicit means when I'm ruling in court? How can a judge decide if when somebody says something, it means implicitly this could provoke terrorism? It's impossible to know. Something else, he says, in the next sentence, it says that it's punishable by law. It's illegal to promote anti-terrorism, but also to minimize acts of terrorism. Well, what does that exactly mean? Is putting into context also a way of minimizing? This could be argued in court. And also, what is really terrorism? How can a judge rule on every act of terrorism? For example, he said, when you look at the West Bank, what some people consider as terrorism, sometimes, since the West Bank is an occupied territory according to international law, well, this could be considered as an act of resistance. How can a French judge decide where the limit is between an act of resistance and an act of absolute terrorism? It's very difficult to know. And the judge said that this job is actually it's not realistic to work this out in French courts. And many people say that this will actually be negative, not only for free speech, but also for French Jews, which some people have been accusing of being behind this law and trying to ban all criticism of Israel, which the law does not really do. But this is an accusation against French Jews, and this can increase acts of anti-Semitism and the anti-Semitic feeling within French society.
Shirley, thanks very much, Shirli Sitbon, covering that for us today. More from her as that debate, of course, happens later in the day.